Aloha mai kako, a Komomati curtain call, a program of reviews and previews of the great art and artists on Maui and beyond. I'm Paul James Brown. The Huinoi'ao Visual Arts Center in Makawao is presenting a posthumous retrospective of the architectural illustrator, impressionist watercolorist, abstract painter, Chinese calligrapher, gardener, tennis player, amateur chef, fine wine connoisseur, world traveler, spiritual seeker, father, grandfather, and husband, Douglas Chun. Mr. Chun passed on June 2, 2017, a little more than a month shy of his 85th birthday. Born in China, Mr. Chun came to Honolulu when he was 16 and studied at the Honolulu Academy of Art and the San Francisco Art Institute. For more than 35 years, Mr. Chun was a partner in the successful San Francisco architectural illustration firm Chun Ishimura Associates. Mr. Chun's drafting table is on display in the gallery with a table-sized mylar of an example of the kind of work his firm did. What is shown is a pre-computer age architectural design for the redevelopment of San Diego from the 80s. Mr. Chun's firm provided these painstaking works for architectural firms throughout the country using rapidographs, T-squares, and triangles. Illustrations such as these were, we are told in a description accompanying the display, took weeks to months, and only Mr. Chun and a few choice employees worked on them because of his, quote, imagination, precision, and perfection. Douglas and his wife Janet's home studio was destroyed in the Berkeley-Oakland fire of 1991. They left the Bay Area for an around-the-world painting trip. However, fate stepped in when they were drawn to look at a place in Upper Kula and fell in love, and thus ended their trip and began a new life here on Maui. When asked in an interview in On Maui magazine in 2012 about what artists he most admired after Winslow Homer and John Singer Sargent, quote, a similar high was the 3 consecutive color sessions under the tutelage of Dick Nelson here on Maui. The sense of camaraderie among fellow artists was equally priceless, unquote. Dick Nelson feels similarly about Mr. Chun, and he and Chris Cowan, Carrie McCarthy, Pat Naroy, Karuna Santoro, Elizabeth Sutcliffe, Mike and Coco Welby, Jin Wong, and Brenda Lamb formed the core committee for the retrospective. Mr. Chun didn't sell his first painting until 1985. They were in Provence, France, and Mr. Chun was painting with a travel kit on a small watercolor pad. A couple watched, and before he was done, asked if they could purchase it. Mr. Chun offered it to them for free. However, Mrs. Chun intervened and got a check for $100 from them. Mr. Chun never cashed that check. He framed it and hung it on the wall of his studio. The 35-piece exhibit covers all of his work from his watercolors to his calligraphy to his explosively colorful abstracts. It is not arranged in chronological order, and only one piece has a date on it. This abstract impressionist acrylic on canvas entitled Farmhouse is dated 1998. Mr. Chun's earliest work, as best as I can tell, are in the rear gallery, where there are marvelous watercolors of a riverboat in Provence. Note how the reflections on the water bring it to life. And then a trip to Venice, where he painted this one of the Grand Canal, capturing the grandeur of the city and the simplicity of the world-renowned water transportation they use at once. Look at the color of the water and see how it seems to shimmer. Here's one of the Campanile 1, the bell tower at St. Mark's Basilica in Venice. This is the interior of a church in Florence. It is perfectly and precisely rendered, and yet it has an impressionistic quality to it. Mr. Chun captured the beauty of Hawaii with his watercolors as well. Here is a church by the sea. This one is of the Napili coast. You can almost hear the waves crashing on the rocks in the distance and feel the mist in the air. This one of eucalyptus could be in Hawaii, but the stream running through the middle doesn't look very Hawaiian. It has a fall feeling to it that doesn't read Hawaii to me. Mr. Chun moved out of watercolor into acrylics in the 90s. His early acrylics are abstract impressionistic, such as Island Church. This one of Upcountry at Dusk, where he has captured the beauty of the jacaranda in full blossom, is purely impressionist. He labels it mixed media on canvas. Tropical Bouquet is a work that foreshadows the colorful abstracts which were to come. That burst of red at the top center of the painting could be a flower or not. Here we can clearly see Mr. Chun moving in a more abstract direction. Waterfall Blue is another step toward moving away from the representational to the abstract. Aqua moves out of representational and into pure abstract. The front gallery is alive with color. About his abstracts, Mr. Chun said, quote, "Whatever comes out is from the inside. What's coming from the inside is invisible. You try to put it on canvas and make it visible. You don't know what's coming. You keep pushing. Then at the end of the day, you realize that's not what you want. So you paint right over it, and on it goes," unquote. The red in this one is such an explosion of color, you don't need the title card to know what this one is all about. This acrylic on masonite work entitled Emergence looks as if the red is gobbling up the red circle, or it could be spitting it out. Golden glow softens the red, which so dominates many of the works, and emphasizes the light of the gold. This acrylic on canvas, Youth, Midlife, Decline, is almost autobiographical. It is from Mr. Chun's Robe series triptych. Red youth is unblemished, and then gives way to blue midlife where cracks appear, and finally in green decline, presumably old age, the cracks become flaming fissures, and the robe is torn and begins to disappear. Germination, I was told, was one of his last paintings. This moves away from the pure abstract back toward abstract impressionism. This green reads plant, and the red the energy of procreation. Mr. Chun has done calligraphy all his life, but as Dick Nelson says in the January-February edition of On Maui, the deep spiritual and cultural ties to his youth could no longer sustain a Western orbit. As he felt the gravitational pull to his core, he concluded his journey by reassigning his brush from one that painted shapes and color to one that recorded poems through calligraphy. Mr. Chun's exquisite calligraphy, including his practice book, 2 handmade books, the tools he used to create these works, and several elegant ink-on-paper works are on display here. This one has a highly descriptive title, Gathering at Temple Translation. May your life be filled with happiness as vast as the eastern sea and longevity as everlasting as the southern mountain overlaying a temple gathering. Then he got into putting a large character over a poem, such as Zen ink on paper, Shen God Divinity Spirit overlaying verses from Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. Pure of Heart is a marvelously vibrant image that is pure poetic perfection without a poem behind it. In his artist statement, Mr. Chun said in part, quote, "I seek to see beauty in everything, from nature to man, and in experiences encountered, by committing some of these on paper or canvas. I am constantly reminded that there is law and order in the universe, and the world is a sacred place to be." The Douglas Chun Retrospective Full Circle into Emptiness is open daily 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. until April 12th. This is a wonderful exhibit that has been beautifully hung by Katie Peterson and Roberta Ann Wiesenberg. Don't miss it. Well, that's Curtain Call for this week. Mahalo nui loa for tuning in. I'm Paul James Brown. Ahui ho.